So let's talk about what's happening in Iraq, people's favorite country. So, Iraq, as we talked about in the last Breaking Iraqi News podcast, is doing well because they're extending and modernizing their railway. In the podcast that I did, I think it was last week, where I talked about how Iraq is extending their railways, I said they're also continue to rebuild other parts of their infrastructure. What we know about a country rebuilding their infrastructure is basically they're stabilizing that country after war and after turmoil and chaos, such as ISIS and other external forces, has been in their country to demolish it. When you stabilize your country and rebuild the infrastructure, that is the precipice or the catalyst for you revaluing your currencies. Now, I hope I don't bore you all with this information by reiterating what I've been saying for a long time. But what made the United States dollar the world reserve currency was our agreement with Saudi Arabia to protect the Saudi kingdom in exchange for their oil. And then we would force other nations to get oil from Saudi Arabia. Noise outside. And when they got oil from Saudi Arabia, they had to use the USD to do so. If they didn't, we would declare war on those nations and fund both sides of the nations of a war, demolish the GDP of that country, and then the currency would devalue of that country. Well, you had CEOs of banks and CEOs of corporations, and you had high ups in military and governments to then go into those devalued or war torn nations, buy the currency that had been devalued through war or sanctions, and then hold on to the currency. Then after the war, what would happen? America would then go back into those countries that we'd either declared war on, or we were maybe supporting the other nation that had declared war on that, but we funded both sides of the war. We would then go back into that country, rebuild the infrastructure, stabilize their economy, then their currency would be reinstated back to their pre-war or pre-sanctioned value. And then the people who had bought up those currencies when it was devalued would now say, I'm going to the bank with the new rate, with the rate, not the rate that was reinstated. It was reinstated back to, and they became millionaires and billionaires overnight. Why is that important? Why that's important right now is because now that you know this is something that they do, pay attention to what's happening in Iraq. They are rebuilding their infrastructure and modernizing their railways. So I know we talked about this last week. This is going to lead me to this week's podcast. So let me bring that up to you briefly about what we talked about, just to bring you up to speed. This is the video that I did last week while I was on vacation in Tennessee with my grandbabies, called Breaking: Iraq Rebuilds Their Infrastructure and Attracts Major Investors and Commits to Sovereignty and Wealth. Is that noise in the background bothering you all? Hold on 1 minute. I'm going to shut the windows. I have windows up. Okay, I'm back. I hope that's better now. It's that time of the year where they're cutting the grass. So here I was talking about how the World Bank on that maybe 2 weeks ago on that Wednesday actually lent Iraq $930 million. That is equivalent to $1.2 trillion for Iraq to modernize their railway network. And this would strengthen domestic and regional trade and support their economic diversification. So this project actually was very good because of some key components. What happened with this $930 million loan that was given to Iraq is that, according to the article, it enhanced their travel efficiency, their freight capacity. So how much they could actually put on the trucks or whatever, the automobiles, whatever they were, or trains, whatever they were loading up. Now they can put more on there. It so enhanced travel efficiency, freight capacity, and access to sustainable transport infrastructure. It also supported Iraqis' broader ambition to become a regional logistics hub. So now they're a regional logistics hub. Their railway has been developed or will be developed with this $930 million dollars. And I don't know if I told you, but that is equivalent to 1 trillion IQD. In addition to that, we know that they have, connected Iraq to 66 countries in the world. And that has made Iraq the biggest or the most important transportation hub in the Middle East. And some argue to say it is now the biggest and most important and largest transportation hub in the world. These are the four components, or I'm sorry, let's say more than four major components, key components of that railway project being developed with the $930 million loan from the World Bank. They will rehab all critical rail infrastructure in their country. They'll modernize locomotives and rolling stock, the locomotives that had been aged and maybe even demolished through war. It will allow them to put in upgrades to Baji, which is a maintenance workshop. They're going to develop dry ports and logistics hubs to attract private investors. So, and I've read to you articles that said, not only are they modernizing their railways and they've become a major transportation hub, but Iraq is now seeking private investors both in the country and abroad. They're asking for people all over the world to invest in their country. They're implementing safety management systems and infrastructure safety improvements. They're now putting in technical assistance with the focus on hiring women, which is something that is not really heard of in Iraq. So now women are having more equality and ability to assist in the infrastructure development by assisting with technical issues. Community engagement through participatory planning and monitoring process, and just all type of things that now will be the focus in terms of Iraq's railway infrastructure system being built. So the article went on to say, and I put this into my video that I did last week, that as Iraq shifts from reconstruction to development, enhanced trade and connectivity will stimulate growth. It will create jobs and reduce oil dependency. This is very, very good because when you think about economic growth and stability, early on, several weeks ago, actually several months ago, maybe about April, I reported that in order for the Iraqi dinar to revalue, you have to have economic stability and reforms put in place. And we see that happening. So that's what we reported on last week. And that will lead us to this week's podcast about how Iraq is doing. Keep checking in. I hope you all can still hear me. Greetings, everybody. Okay, Sister Sheila says, you're not boring when you repeat information. For me, the more information is repeated, I gain a better understanding about how the system actually operates. Thank you so much, Sister Sheila. That makes me feel good to know that I'm not boring you all. Okay, so what else is happening? Iraq is extending and modernizing their railways and rebuilding their infrastructure. We talked about how they're modernizing their system. What else did I want to tell you? If you recall, in the earlier video that I showed you all, President Trump had a Fox interview where he said we have several million, I think he said something like 30-something million of the Iraqi dinar sitting in our banks. One of the things he said in that video is we've protected Iraq and we've had troops over there to play the role of an advisory role position or taking an advisory role and a position in that country. And because we have protected them and we've given them all of the security that they need, they're going to have to pay us. And so the Fox reporter asked, how are you going to make them pay? How are you going to make them pay? And he said, we already made them pay. We have 36, did he say million or billion? I think he said billion of their money sitting in our banks right now. I'll have to bring up that video again because it escapes me how much he said. But one of the things he said when he was talking about why they're going to have to pay us is not just because we protected them and we were an advisor to them, but he said we rebuilt their airports and parts of their infrastructure that are better than or rivals what we have in New York. He said they have to pay us for all the work that we've done there. And so this is just encouragement to you, Soul Family, that as we continue to see they're rebuilding their infrastructure, we know that they're going to revalue their currency because that is what happens and what has happened historically. What else is happening? Some news coming out of the Central Bank of Iraq, and that is that their currency that's in circulation, the Iraqi currency in circulation fell by 0.6% in the first quarter of 2025. And that was according to a statement that came out of the Central Bank of Iraq. Now, it is said that the money supply, whenever it shrinks or it is reduced, that will help contain inflation. Not only will that help contain inflation, but it maintains price stability. One of the things that has happened to devalue currencies is inflation going up. Well, now with the currency that's in circulation actually being decreased, the money supply decreasing, that means now we will have stability, price stability. And I'll show you that article just quickly so you can see what I'm talking about. Right here. Iraqi currency in circulation fell by 0.6% in the first quarter of 2025, according to a statement by the Central Bank of Iraq. It said money supply fell from IQD 100.5 trillion to 99.9 trillion. That might not seem like a large amount, but according to the article, the reduction is expected to help, like what I said, contain inflation and maintain price stability. When you maintain price stability, and you contain inflation, you are setting yourself up for a currency revaluation. You have to stabilize the economy, the currency, and really the people, everything, the political landscape, before you revalue your currency. My air conditioner is not working, and it is like 85 degrees here in Jacksonville, Florida. So we're going to have to get that fixed right away. That's why you see me fanning. Plus, I'm a woman of a certain age, so you know my hormones are fluctuating. But let's go on. Not only that, but Iraq increased their gold reserves. This is big. So now that they're making sure that the currency is stable and they're maintaining price stability with the money supply falling somewhat, they're going to have to back their currency in order to revalue that currency, or in order to reinstate the currency back to its normal value, as well as raise the revaluation rate, because you have to take into account for all of the resources that Iraq has. So the Central Bank of Iraq just recently reported that they increased their gold reserves by 45%. This is huge, because when you increase your gold reserves, you're making a statement to the world that you're using that gold for something. You're using that gold to back your currency, and you're using that gold in your central banks to make sure that your banks are in a good place in case you have some type of economic fluctuation. So gold, foreign currencies, which are tier 2 assets, gold being a tier 1 asset, secures your bank and preserves your bank against economic hardships and against filing bankruptcy. So now I'll show you the article where it says the CBI emphasized that the growth or having more gold in the bank strengthens their economic and financial stability and mitigates risk and it serves as a key tool for currency market intervention. Let's see if I can find that article for you. They increased their gold reserves by 45.1%. Why would you need to increase your gold reserves? To back up your currency. To back up your currency and to maintain the health of the bank. And you want to stay on par with other nations which are amassing gold in large numbers. So this is an article that comes out by let me see if I can get that article up. The article is printed actually in their language. So I'm going to have to see if I can somehow, let's see, how do you get this in English? I'm trying to translate, get this translated in English, which I can do by going to their major site. Just 1 minute. I'll put that in the description section for you as well. So the INA dot, what is it? IQ/AR website. When you first pull it up, they'll bring it into Arabic, but you can also translate it to English. 1 second, family. Let me know what you think about this information so far. Well, for some reason I'm having a little issue with my internet. I'll try it again. Now I have a server problem. I'm trying to wait for this article to load. Wow. Again, the article that I'm trying to upload says that the central bank has reported a 45.1% increase in gold reserves, and that happened in Q4 of last year, 2024. Well, the website is, for some reason, is not pulling up. I'll put it in the description section for you. I do see it in Arabic, but I'm trying to put it in English. I'm trying to have it translated. Maybe we can come back to that. Next, that I wanted to report on is we spoke of how Iraq is modernizing their railway system and how they have become a large the major transportation hub in the Middle East, and maybe even the biggest in the world now. Well, speaking of modernization, the Central Bank of Iraq confirmed on Friday that the National Electronic Payment Card project that they have in Iraq is a local option for the Iraqi people, and it's exclusively in Iraqi dinars. So they have a new payment system that they can use there. It's exclusively in dinars and not US dollars, because they're moving away from any transactions dealing with the United States dollar. Wow. Or any dealings with the United States dollar, period. I said, wow, because I just went to that website and it says it's a server error. Why am I having issues this morning? This is wild. Let me see if I can go to another article. Central Bank confirmed the National Electronic Payment System. I'm going to bring it up in somewhere else. That card system is now in Iraqi dinars only. Hold on. So I just found it published in another place. Here we go. It's right here. The Central Bank of Iraq clarifies the national payment card and its scope of use. The Central Bank of Iraq confirmed on Friday, I think that was just yesterday, yes, on the 4th of July, that the National Electronic Payment Card project does not eliminate the use of international cards such as Visa, MasterCard, etc., explaining that the project aims to enhance financial inclusion and diversify options for their citizens. The bank said in a statement received by the Shafaq news agency, The National Electronic Payment Card Project is an additional local option used exclusively with Iraq and Iraqi dinars, their currency, and it doesn't cancel or restrict existing international cards such as Visa or MasterCard. He says there are no plans to cancel these cards or ban transactions in dollars outside of Iraq, as their holders can still use them inside and outside the country, as it currently is the case. So they're saying it won't exclude the dollar, but I heard Al Sudani, the prime minister of Iraq, actually tell people to stay away from the USD, to not buy the USD on the black market. And if you do, you will face severe consequences. He went on further to say, trust in your own currency because this is the currency of your homeland. And he said that he would work with the Central Bank of Iraq to revalue the Iraqi dinar against the United States dollar. He also said he would work with other countries to return the stolen money, and he would get rid of endemic corruption in his country. So on one hand, they're saying that they're not going to do away with dealings with MasterCard, Visa, and its connection to the dollar. But you do see that it says that this card deals with dinars exclusively. So I would just say that it's very encouraging for the Iraqi people that now they have their own national payment card that's in country, that it's sovereign, and it deals in their currency alone. It says exclusively. Did it say exclusively? Confirmed that it is a statement issued. It's in there. Oh, it's an additional local currency option. And yes, and exclusively with Iraq and Iraqi dinars. So that's very encouraging for them. And according to the gentleman who made the statement, he said that, or pointing out that the project aims to reduce payment costs, enhance their financial inclusion, and diversify options for the public. So actually, that's a good thing that they have options. And it will provide national cards to all institutions and segments within Iraq, while international cards remain the primary means of spending in dollars or other currencies outside Iraq for purchasing via global websites. So I hear him saying this is a national card that deals with only Iraqi dinars, and they also have international cards. That's the primary mean for spending in dollars and other currencies. So they will have the option to use their national card for national transactions in dinars only, and international cards to deal with other currencies. So I brought that up because Iraq is trying to stay on par with what other nations are doing. Other nations are providing a means by which you can use your own sovereign currency, but you will also be able to do transactions in other currencies. Because remember, all currencies will be one-to-one with each other. That's an agreement that 209 countries made behind the scenes, and that agreement is called Project Sandman. Oh, it was 35 billion. So President Trump said we have 35 billion Iraqi dinars sitting in our banks right now. Thank you so much, Maurice. I appreciate you. Good afternoon, Marquet. What else is in the news? Oh, there was a statement, and that's the last part of an article that I thought was very interesting to bring up to you all. And let me show you, I could show you my notes here so you can stay with me. There was a statement here that said, where a gentleman said, we expect to see a strong Iraq with regional and global standing. So Iraq is positioned not only to do well economically and politically for the benefit of their people, but they want to make sure that they're doing well as it relates to their position globally, economically, with their transportation hub, their infrastructure being built, them asking for investors, private investors, to invest in their country. They want to make sure that they look good in light of their own people and in light of world leaders and people all over the globe. So I think I brought that article up for you. Let me see. Yes, I did. It's loading. How's the internet? How is my internet on your end? Because things are taking a long time to load over here. Let me see. I don't know why that's. And now my granddaughter's calling. I don't know why that's happening. How's my internet on your end, family? Hey, Love being Nubian. It's good to see you. Athaline Graham, it's good to see you. So I'm trying to bring up the article where they said we expect to see a strong Iraq and regional. What is it? A strong Iraq with regional and global standing. Here it is. I think I finally got it. Nope, it didn't come up. Nope, those are my notes. Hold on. They're saying they're waiting to verify my computer. I've never had that happen before. Okay, we're just going to keep moving. That's wild. I don't know why I'm having issues. Okay, well, I just wanted to show you how this person that was situated in a religious region of Iraq saying that, religiously they're doing well to strengthen the health of their nation and mental health of their nation, but they're also positioning themselves to be a strong country regionally within the Middle Eastern region and globally. But I'm not able to bring up their website. Another thing that's happening is the Prime Minister confirmed progress on new developing sites or new developing cities. So they're developing several new cities in Iraq. And not only are they developing the cities, but they're doing some beautiful things within those cities. When you see new cities popping up, new communities, you know that the country must be thriving. And this is why this is newsworthy, because I want to show you that the infrastructure is being built. Their transportation hub now in Iraq. The currency is becoming more stable. Economic reforms are put in place, and now you have new cities. The Prime Minister, Al-Sudani, confirmed progress in several new cities, 6 new cities to be exact. He confirmed that 6 new cities, have been awarded for execution with 3 more pending. So that'd be a total of 9. 9 is a number of completion, the start of something and the end of one cycle and beginning of a new cycle. So there are 3 more pending cities in addition to the 6. And this is a part of a broader plan to develop 60 brand new urban centers across the country of Iraq. So Al-Sudani spoke at a meeting, and the title of this meeting was New Cities Authority on Monday. And he emphasized the government's commitment to strategic long-term solutions to Iraq's housing crisis. They have problems with homelessness, problems with not having enough homes for their citizens, because most of their homes, or many of their homes, were dilapidated through war or haven't had sanctions imposed on them, or the currency and the GDP being so low. So the housing market there was eroding. But now to deal with that crisis, they're going to create 60 new cities. So the meeting was attended not only by Al-Sudani, the Prime Minister, but also by the Ministers of Construction and Housing and Environment, along with senior advisors and officials. Al-Sudani stated that the challenges, particularly those related to land ownership, legal transfer to investors, and the resolution of infrastructure overlaps, are being addressed actively. So the infrastructure, you see that word again, is being addressed, as well as land ownership, transfers to investors. All this is being mitigated and worked out during this new era. Al-Sudani directed officials to implement practical solutions for service delivery. So they have to take care of how they're going to deliver certain products, how they're going to deliver mail, how they're going to deliver, services, even to ensure transportation links to new cities. So now that you have these new cities being developed, you got to figure out delivery to those people, the neighbors and the neighborhoods, transportation within those new cities, all that's revitalization of whole new communities that's occurring in Iraq right now in 2025. He also called for a comprehensive infrastructure map for Greater Baghdad, incorporating both the existing city and its planned extensions. So you see how the infrastructure is being the focus of the country right now in Iraq, which is the precipice for or two, the Iraqi dinar being revaluated. How are you going to create new cities and put people in those new cities? How are you going to create and rebuild infrastructures and have a thriving economy that is stable unless you revalue your currency? Progress, according to this article, was being viewed or reviewed on several key components, including several cities, and they named the cities there. 60 new cities will eventually be created there in Iraq. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think this is encouraging news for the Sow family, for the Iraqi people in Iraq, and for those who hold the Iraqi dinar? Oh, organizing it, please let me know. Okay, so Love BN wants to know. She says, I was wondering on your last podcast about a suggestion that I made. We should try to do an event, maybe in Florida, bringing us, the Sow family, together at a park in Florida or Georgia. I'm willing to help. I think that's a great idea. That's a phenomenal idea. Yes, yes. We'll talk about that more. I love the idea for the Sow family to get together and meet each other. Also, Iraq is opening or has opened 2 major bypasses in Baghdad, one of their major cities. And the reason why they are creating these 2 major bypasses is to address traffic congestion. So in the article, they go on further to talk about how they're working on the infrastructure. When you build bypasses, that is part of the infrastructure. So Iraq is doing major things, family, major things to let us know that somehow they got some money. Somehow they are making sure that their cities are safe and that people are able to communicate and get back and forth to work and back and forth to, wherever they need to go. So I'll bring that article up for you just briefly so you can see what they're talking about. The Prime Minister Al-Sudani opened 2 overpasses in Tobiji. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. The area of Baghdad's Kark district as part of his first phase of infrastructure works aimed at easing traffic congestion in the capital. So Baghdad is the capital. This is just the first phase, the bypasses that they're implementing right now. This project, implemented under the Ministry of Construction and Housing Traffic Decongestion Plan, is one of 16 such initiatives, 11 completed to date. So they've already completed 11, and they're going to complete a total of 16 initiatives to address the traffic issue in Baghdad. The 2 new overpasses span 950 meters towards Alawi and 550 meters towards Aden Square, with 8 access ramps connecting them to Ben Hayyan Bridge and July 14th Street. Wow, they have a street called July 14th. The development is expected to significantly improve traffic flow between several major areas. Al-Sudani praised the efforts of the Ministry of Construction and Housing, Baghdad Municipality, the Prime Minister's monitoring team, the Baghdad government, and the implementing company. He also expressed appreciation to the residents of Baghdad for their patience during the project's construction. He reiterated the government's commitment to infrastructure improvement across Baghdad and other governorates, emphasizing the importance of completing stalled projects. So there were some projects that they had initiated or started, but they had been halted. Now he says we're going to complete those particular projects, and we're going to launch even more or new ones in the sectors of water, sanitation, housing, and urban development. Can you see that they're rebuilding their infrastructure? They're creating new cities. They're taking care of the water issues. They're taking care of the sanitation issue. This is huge. When you see this type of development occurring in a country, you know we're on the precipice of change. You can see it with your own eyes that we're ready for a currency revaluation. They've been waiting for economic stability and progress and safety in that region before they revalue the currencies. What else is in the news or in my notes to discuss is that Iraq is strengthening the United States-Iraq relationships through energy and security. And basically, I do have the article there that came out of Washington. I'll just give you a short synopsis, is that the Prime Minister al-Sudani said that his administration is courting firms from the United States and other countries such as France. So they're courting firms from the United States of America, firms from France and China to help boost their oil production. Because remember, they were getting a lot of their oil from Iran. But that was a way for Iran to control Iraq by importing oil and other energy type devices into the country. And what they would do is, you get oil from us, we're going to control your politics, we're going to control your economy, we're going to control basically everything in Iraq. Well, Trump put sanctions on Iran, and when he put sanctions on Iran, Iran stopped importing oil into Iraq. Well, that just made Iraq become more self-sufficient. If you all recall, a week or two ago, I showed you that Iraq has made an announcement that they have become fully self-sufficient, not only in terms of energy and oil, but they've become fully self-sufficient in terms of their sovereignty, their economy, and their political arena. So in terms of stability, Washington has stressed that Iraq must continue to counter ISIS, as well as other external factors, And secondly, they must focus on minimizing any threat from Iran-backed militia. But we know that Iran is not a threat any longer to Iraq, because Trump, number one, put sanctions on Iran, but Trump also bombed 3 of their nuclear facilities that enabled them to create nuclear weapons. And when he did that, that was it. Iran has lost most of its power. And they said, the articles that I've read said, it has put Iran's nuclear defense program back by several decades. So now Iran is no longer a threat, and Iraq is able to increase their own oil imports and work with countries such as France, China, and others to help boost their oil production. And then finally, there was a Colorado-based United States firm that won a bid in the amount of $118 million to help with Iraq defense. And I'll show you that article here in a minute. So the country that won the bid was actually America, and that is with a company coming out of Colorado. Here's an ad that popped up. Colorado-based Vetra Systems LLC has been awarded a $118,020,690 cost plus fixed fee undefinitized contract action for base support services. So now this contract that's out of Colorado will provide base support for Iraq, and not only base support, but according to the article, it says the contract provides base operating support, base life support, and security services. Work will be performed at the Martyr BG Falai Air Force Base, and Iraq, therefore, is expected to be completed. In Iraq, and it's expected to be completed November the 30th. According to the statement from the United States Department of Defense, this contract was a sole source acquisition. Excuse me, I don't know what that is that just popped up. The contract was a sole source acquisition as requested in a letter of request and agreed to in a letter of offer and acceptance. FMS funds in the amount of $57 million are being obligated at the time of the award. The Air Force Life Cycle Management Center, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio, is the contracting activity. Okay, so the United States Department of Defense has issued a statement out of Washington that says that there is an American-based firm that will deal with base support, providing base support for the country of Iraq. So that would mean that Iraq would indeed become more stable, which would lead to a currency revaluation, because again, you have to have a country that's stable, you have to have economic stability, and you have to have certain economic reforms put in place to secure the country in order for them to not only revalue their currency, but before other countries will do business with you, they have to know that the country is safe. They have to also know that you are positioning yourself to do business and to do trade on a global scene. And that's what Iraq has done. So in summary, if we were to go over and summarize all of the notes, and I'll bring my notes up with you here, we see, hold on, that Iraq has extended and modernized their railways and rebuilding their infrastructure. That now the news out of central Iraq, or the Central Bank of Iraq, is that Iraq's currency in circulation fell by 0.6%, which then when you see that the money supply fell by certain percentage points, that reduction helps with inflation. It helps to contain inflation, and it helps to maintain price stability. There's no fluctuation in the inflation, which would mean that, you know, the money becomes worthless. So now with the stability, the price stability, now what do you need to do? You need to back it up with gold. And that's why Iraq has backed up the currency with gold behind the scenes by increasing their gold reserves. Last quarter, Q4 of 2024, the Central Bank of Iraq reported that their country actually amassed or increased their gold reserves by 45.1%. This would emphasize or strengthen the economic, what it says, the CBI emphasized that this growth strengthens economic and financial stability. It mitigates or does away with risk. It serves as a key tool for currency market invention. It is a key tool for currency market invention. What do you need to, what's the intervention that you need? Well, the Iraqi dinar is now in high demand because of the transportation hub that was created in Iraq. When that transportation hub went into effect or was implemented as of April 1st, 2025, the demand for the Iraqi dinar increased a whole lot. So when the demand goes up, when you look at the law of supply and demand, the supply decreases. When the demand for something goes up and the supply decreases, then that commodity becomes more valuable. They're going to have to revalue the Iraqi dinar because it's become more valuable in the eyes of people. They need this dinar because they want to invest in that country. They want to invest in a transportation hub. They want to invest in a railway system. They want to invest in businesses that are there now. I showed you articles before that said that now that Iraq is becoming more stable, they're actually seeking outside investors. So not only did they bring back their businessmen and entrepreneurs that had gone abroad, and I showed you articles about that, and the government in Iraq said, we're going to invest in you entrepreneurs to come back home. We'll give you money. We'll give you resources. We'll give you manpower, whatever you need. They've also asked for investors outside of the country to please come and invest in Iraq.